My regional manager told our sales team, commission structures need to reflect company reality, when he announced the new compensation plan would cap all commissions at $40,000 annually after I had achieved $2.8 million in territory revenue during my best sales year. My name is Thomas Anderson, 47 years old, pharmaceutical sales representative with 19 years of consistent performance, specializing in cardiovascular medication territory development and healthcare provider relationship management. I had built my pharmaceutical sales territory through systematic client relationship development and comprehensive account management protocols that consistently exceeded regional performance benchmarks while maintaining the highest standards of professional healthcare sales practice. When Steve Collins explained during our quarterly sales meeting that exceptional sales performance created compensation inequities, requiring immediate commission restructuring to maintain sustainable business operations, I simply said, I understand the need to align compensation with evolving business objectives. What Collins didn't realize was that my methodical approach to pharmaceutical sales included comprehensive contract documentation and automated performance tracking systems that would expose his unauthorized modification of established commission agreements while proving systematic violation of federal wage protection laws. The devastating news about the commission restructuring reached me on a Tuesday morning during our Q3 territorial performance review at the Marriott Downtown Conference Center. I had just completed my best sales quarter in 19 years, generating $850,000 in Q3 revenue alone through systematic healthcare provider relationship development and comprehensive medication portfolio management. Thomas, your territory performance has been exceptional, but corporate executives have identified commission cost concerns that require immediate compensation restructuring, Collins explained while reviewing printed financial reports. High-performing representatives create budgetary pressures that threaten overall team compensation sustainability. I reviewed the new commission structure while noting Collins's uncomfortable demeanor and his unusual emphasis on cost reduction strategies that seemed designed to specifically target my earned compensation. Steve, our commission agreement established specific percentage structures based on territory revenue achievement, I observed while examining the restructured compensation plan that would eliminate $140,000 in earned commission. How does this restructuring align with our existing contractual commission terms? Collins gathered his documentation with visible discomfort. Thomas, evolving business conditions require commission flexibility that responds to corporate financial pressures. The restructured compensation reflects market realities that high-performing territories must accommodate. The explanation contradicted our established employment agreements and raised immediate concerns about unauthorized contract modification and potential wage theft that could compromise both my earned compensation and established employment protections. I see. What timeline does corporate require for implementing these commission adjustments, and will they affect previously earned compensation from current quarter performance? Collins distributed additional compensation materials while avoiding specific details about retroactive application and contract modification authorization procedures. Thomas, sophisticated corporate compensation requires systematic adjustment strategies that optimize overall team performance rather than individual achievement recognition. The commission restructuring ensures equitable compensation distribution across all territory representatives. I thanked Collins for explaining the corporate compensation strategy and requested time to review all restructuring documentation and contract modification terms. Then I began systematic analysis of our employment agreements and commission contract compliance. The comprehensive customer relationship management system I had implemented tracked every client interaction, sales achievement, and commission calculation with timestamps, performance authentication, and contract compliance verification. What I discovered during the first evening of analysis was sufficient evidence to contact my employment attorney, Jennifer Martinez, for immediate consultation about wage theft and contract modification violations. The commission records showed that Collins had systematically restructured compensation agreements without proper authorization while retroactively affecting earned commission that was already protected under existing contract terms. "Jennifer, I need urgent consultation about wage theft by my regional manager," I explained during our confidential phone call. The documentation shows systematic elimination of $140,000 in earned commission through unauthorized contract modification. Martinez had handled pharmaceutical sales employment disputes throughout her career and immediately recognized the seriousness of systematic wage theft in corporate environments where commission modifications directly affected established employment contract protections. "Thomas, if Collins modified your commission structure without proper authorization to avoid paying earned compensation, you're looking at wage theft violations that carry both civil and criminal penalties," she explained. The evidence I was compiling showed not just contract disputes, but systematic wage theft, designed to eliminate earned compensation while circumventing federal employment protection laws through unauthorized contract modifications. Collins had apparently been studying corporate cost reduction strategies and employment law loopholes while planning to systematically eliminate high-performer compensation during quarterly performance review periods. Collins's commission restructuring occurred immediately after my record-breaking sales performance, when corporate executives would be evaluating compensation costs, I documented. His systematic timing proves premeditated wage theft rather than legitimate business restructuring. The automated CRM systems revealed that Collins had been systematically studying our commission structures and corporate compensation policies while coordinating with executives to reduce high-performer compensation obligations. Collins accessed confidential commission data and corporate compensation analysis to coordinate systematic wage reduction targeting high-performing representatives, I noted. His systematic coordination with corporate executives constitutes comprehensive employment fraud. The employment contract protections I had negotiated during my initial hiring included specific safeguards against unilateral compensation modifications and established procedures for contract changes that required mutual authorization and proper notice periods. Our employment contracts explicitly require joint authorization for commission modifications and prohibit retroactive compensation reductions affecting earned performance payments, I documented. Martinez reviewed my preliminary evidence and immediately recommended comprehensive documentation preservation and potential Department of Labor notification about Collins's wage theft and unauthorized contract modification. "Thomas, pharmaceutical sales representatives have specific federal protections against wage theft and unauthorized commission modification," Martinez advised. "Collins's systematic compensation reduction creates both contract violations and federal wage theft liability." The commission calculations I had maintained throughout my pharmaceutical career established comprehensive evidence of earned compensation that predated Collins's unauthorized modifications, creating irrefutable proof of systematic wage theft. My commission documentation demonstrates earned compensation totaling $180,000 that Collins systematically eliminated through unauthorized contract modification, I noted. The comprehensive performance records prove systematic wage theft rather than legitimate compensation restructuring. Collins's confidence about commission restructuring was about to encounter systematic evidence and federal enforcement that would expose every aspect of his wage theft scheme. Have you ever discovered that someone exploited your record sales performance to steal earned commission while claiming corporate cost reduction necessity? Pharmaceutical sales requires comprehensive documentation when trusted managers attempt systematic wage theft through unauthorized contract modifications. My 19-year career in pharmaceutical sales had been built on the foundation of systematic territory development and comprehensive client relationship management that transformed underperforming healthcare markets into consistently profitable revenue generators while maintaining the highest standards of professional medical sales practice. The expertise I had developed in cardiovascular medication sales and healthcare provider relationship building represented decades of specialized knowledge that had generated both professional recognition and substantial commission earnings through ethical pharmaceutical promotion. I had established my pharmaceutical sales career in 2005 after completing my bachelor's degree in business administration with a concentration in healthcare marketing from Arizona State University, where I specialized in pharmaceutical promotion strategies with additional focus on medical ethics and healthcare provider relationship development. Thomas's systematic approach to pharmaceutical territory development and healthcare provider relationship management provides exceptional medical sales results that exceed industry performance standards, noted early performance evaluation from Regional Sales Director Dr. Sarah Rodriguez. The sales methodology I had developed emphasized comprehensive healthcare provider education combined with systematic territory analysis that ensured optimal medication access while maintaining strict adherence to pharmaceutical promotion regulations and medical ethics guidelines. Anderson's pharmaceutical sales performance generated consistently superior territory results, while maintaining perfect compliance with medical promotion standards throughout 7 years of regulatory inspections, documented quarterly business review from 2012. The promotion to senior territory representative in 2018 had reflected my recognition that specialized pharmaceutical sales required dedicated focus on healthcare provider relationships rather than traditional volume-based sales approaches that prioritized quantity over professional medical education. Steve Collins had joined our regional management team in 2020 when my pharmaceutical territory had expanded beyond individual capacity to manage complex healthcare provider relationships while maintaining comprehensive regulatory compliance and territory development programs. Steve's business management background and pharmaceutical industry experience will provide operational support for your expanded territory responsibilities, I had reasoned when Collins assumed regional oversight of our high-performing sales team. Collins brought solid credentials in corporate operations and claimed experience in pharmaceutical sales optimization, though his attitudes toward territory development and healthcare provider relationship maintenance had gradually created tension within my systematic approach to professional medical sales. Thomas, your relationship development protocols exceed standard pharmaceutical sales practices, Collins had complained regularly during quarterly territory reviews. Efficient pharmaceutical sales require streamlined approaches rather than excessive healthcare provider education and relationship maintenance activities. I had consistently explained that comprehensive healthcare provider relationships were essential for both territory performance and regulatory compliance in the heavily regulated pharmaceutical industry. Steve, pharmaceutical sales success requires detailed healthcare provider education and systematic relationship development, I would respond during performance discussions. Comprehensive territory management protects both sales performance and regulatory compliance from pharmaceutical promotion violations. But Collins viewed comprehensive relationship development as obstacles to cost-effective sales optimization rather than essential investments in long-term territory performance and healthcare provider satisfaction. Excessive relationship development prevents efficient territory management and limits scalable sales productivity, Collins had argued during business development planning sessions. The $2.8 million territory revenue that had precipitated Collins's commission theft represented systematic healthcare provider, relationship development, and comprehensive medication portfolio management that had transformed our region into one of the company's most profitable pharmaceutical markets. Our territory performance provides consistent revenue growth through systematic healthcare provider relationship development and comprehensive pharmaceutical education programs, I had documented during territory strategy planning. The $180,000 annual commission that Collins had systematically eliminated represented earned compensation based on established performance metrics and contractual commission structures that had been negotiated and agreed upon during my employment contract development. Independent territory performance analysis consistently demonstrated superior results that justified premium commission compensation based on measurable healthcare provider satisfaction and revenue generation, I had noted during compensation reviews. But Collins had apparently been viewing my commission earnings as excessive compensation rather than earned payment for documented territory performance that exceeded regional benchmarks and corporate expectations. The commission contract I had negotiated included specific performance metrics and percentage calculations that were designed to reward exceptional territory development while encouraging continued healthcare provider relationship investment and professional medical sales excellence. Commission contract terms established specific percentage calculations based on territory revenue achievement and healthcare provider relationship development metrics I had documented. The systematic territory development work that informed my pharmaceutical sales success required intensive healthcare provider education and relationship maintenance that Collins had apparently underestimated when planning his unauthorized commission modifications. Pharmaceutical territory development requires specialized medical knowledge and systematic healthcare provider relationship management, I observed. Collins lacks the healthcare industry expertise to understand the professional requirements for sustained territory performance. The healthcare provider relationships I had built through medical education and pharmaceutical promotion were being systematically devalued by Collins while he implemented cost reduction strategies that threatened long-term territory sustainability and regulatory compliance. Healthcare provider relationships require systematic investment and professional medical knowledge, I documented. Collins's cost reduction approach threatens territory performance and regulatory compliance through inadequate relationship maintenance. Collins had apparently been studying corporate cost reduction mandates while planning to systematically eliminate high-performer compensation during my record-breaking sales achievement periods, when compensation costs would be most visible to corporate executives. The comprehensive territory documentation I maintained for pharmaceutical promotion, compliance, and territory management provided comprehensive evidence that would expose Collins's wage theft while protecting both earned compensation and continued territory performance. Systematic territory documentation proves earned commission through documented performance achievement and healthcare provider relationship development I had established as fundamental territorial management protocol. The pharmaceutical industry regulations I had mastered for territory compliance were creating additional evidence that Collins's commission modifications violated not just employment contracts, but also pharmaceutical industry standards for sales representative compensation and territory management. Pharmaceutical sales compensation requires systematic calculation based on documented territory performance, I noted. Collins's unauthorized modifications violate both employment contracts and pharmaceutical industry compensation standards. Collins's exploitation of my record sales performance to implement systematic wage theft violated both employment agreements and pharmaceutical industry standards, while potentially compromising essential healthcare provider relationships and territory development programs. The comprehensive performance documentation I had maintained for regulatory compliance and territory management would provide irrefutable evidence of Collins's wage theft while establishing clear commission entitlement through systematic territory development and healthcare provider relationship achievement. Have you ever realized that comprehensive pharmaceutical sales documentation becomes essential evidence when managers exploit record performance for systematic wage theft? Professional pharmaceutical sales requires systematic protection when trusted supervisors become exploitative during exceptional territory achievement periods. The comprehensive investigation I conducted during my first month after Collins's commission restructuring revealed that his wage theft wasn't corporate cost reduction during routine business optimization, but a carefully planned scheme to systematically eliminate high-performer compensation, while I was focused on maintaining territory performance and healthcare provider relationships that required intensive professional attention. My forensic analysis of corporate communication records and compensation policy documentation showed that Collins had been systematically coordinating with corporate executives to identify high-earning representatives while planning optimal timing for commission elimination during peak performance periods when individual compensation costs would be most visible to cost reduction initiatives. Collins's compensation restructuring coordination began 6 weeks before the quarterly sales meeting. I documented while reviewing automated CRM logs and corporate communication records. His systematic planning proves premeditated wage theft rather than spontaneous corporate cost reduction response. The sophistication of Collins's scheme included coordination with corporate compensation consultants who were advising regional managers about high-performer elimination strategies while helping them develop restructuring materials that would circumvent employment contract protections and wage theft detection. Collins coordinated with corporate compensation solutions to develop commission restructuring plans that systematically targeted high-performing representatives, I noted, while examining consulting contracts and restructuring materials. His systematic coordination with compensation consultants enabled comprehensive wage theft through employment contract circumvention. But Collins had made critical errors that would expose his systematic fraud and provide overwhelming evidence for both Department of Labor investigation and employment contract enforcement proceedings. The automated performance tracking systems I had implemented included mandatory compensation calculation, verification, and contract compliance protocols that Collins could not circumvent without creating obvious evidence of systematic documentation manipulation and wage theft. Collins's attempts to modify commission calculations and contract terms created comprehensive audit trails of unauthorized compensation changes I compiled while reviewing system security logs and contract modification attempts. The technical evidence proves systematic wage theft rather than legitimate corporate cost reduction. The employment attorney Jennifer Martinez reviewed my expanded evidence compilation and immediately recognized the systematic nature of Collins's wage theft and the potential for both civil recovery and Department of Labor fraud investigation. Thomas, Collins's activities show classic patterns of systematic wage theft involving employment contract violation and deliberate circumvention of federal wage protection laws, Martinez observed. The documented evidence proves intentional compensation theft rather than legitimate business restructuring. The technical methods Collins had used to facilitate his wage theft included creating false cost reduction justifications and submitting fraudulent compensation analysis that would justify systematic commission elimination to corporate executives conducting financial review. Collins fabricated corporate cost reduction narratives and submitted false compensation analysis to support unauthorized commission elimination, I documented. His systematic falsification of business justification constitutes fraud in addition to wage theft violations. The corporate communication analysis revealed that Collins had been systematically misrepresenting territory performance costs and individual compensation structures while avoiding specific questions about contract modification, authorization, and employment law compliance. Collins provided false representations to corporate executives about excessive compensation costs and territory performance sustainability, I noted. His systematic corporate deception proves fraudulent intent rather than legitimate business cost management. Most concerning was Collins's systematic access to confidential compensation analysis and corporate cost reduction planning that he had been exploiting to create believable wage reduction justifications while circumventing employment contract protections and federal wage laws. Collins accessed confidential corporate compensation data and cost reduction planning to create fraudulent wage theft justifications, I documented. His exploitation of privileged corporate information enabled systematic employment contract violation during territory performance achievement. The corporate compensation records revealed that Collins had been providing false territory cost analysis and performance sustainability assessments while misrepresenting the scope of individual compensation obligations versus corporate revenue generation. Collins submitted false territory cost documentation and misrepresented performance sustainability to facilitate commission elimination, I noted. His systematic corporate fraud created additional liability beyond employment contract violations. The timeline analysis revealed that Collins's wage theft had accelerated during my record-breaking sales period when he realized that exceptional territory performance would provide optimal justification for corporate cost reduction initiatives targeting high-performer compensation. Collins's commission elimination timing coincided with completion of my record territory performance, I calculated. His systematic exploitation of performance achievement timing proves premeditated wage theft rather than spontaneous corporate cost management. Martinez recommended immediate Department of Labor notification and comprehensive evidence preservation to prevent Collins from completing additional wage theft, targeting other high-performing representatives, or destroying incriminating documentation. Thomas, We need immediate federal wage protection investigation to prevent Collins from eliminating compensation for additional representatives while investigators examine the full scope of systematic wage theft, Martinez advised. Your comprehensive documentation provides overwhelming evidence for both employment contract enforcement and federal wage theft prosecution. The United States Department of Labor wage theft investigation procedures for pharmaceutical sales were designed to protect both employees and employment contract integrity from systematic compensation manipulation and corporate wage theft schemes. Collins's compensation elimination may violate federal wage protection laws governing pharmaceutical sales and employment contract modification requirements, Martinez explained. His systematic wage theft creates both civil liability and potential criminal exposure. The evidence preservation process required securing all digital performance records, corporate communication logs, and compensation calculation documentation before Collins realized that his wage theft had been comprehensively documented through automated tracking systems. We need to preserve all evidence immediately while implementing Department of Labor notification procedures, Martinez advised. Collins cannot be allowed to destroy records or continue wage theft targeting additional representatives. The employment contract verification procedures that I had maintained throughout my pharmaceutical career provided irrefutable evidence of earned commission that would expose Collins's false cost reduction claims to Department of Labor wage theft investigators. Your employment contracts establish clear commission entitlement that predates Collins's unauthorized modifications, Martinez observed. The comprehensive contract documentation eliminates any possibility of legitimate corporate cost reduction claims. The Department of Labor's wage protection standards included specific verification requirements for pharmaceutical sales compensation and employment contract modification that Collins had systematically violated through fraudulent restructuring. Collins's compensation elimination violated federal wage protection requirements for pharmaceutical sales representative contract modification and earned compensation verification, Martinez noted. His systematic contract violation creates comprehensive federal wage theft liability. The automated performance systems were providing real-time evidence of earned commission that directly contradicted Collins's corporate cost reduction claims while establishing clear compensation entitlement through systematic territory development and healthcare provider relationship achievement. Your performance tracking systems provide comprehensive evidence of earned commission that makes Collins's cost reduction claims impossible to defend, Martinez explained. The territory documentation eliminates all credibility for his wage theft justifications. Collins's confidence about corporate cost reduction was about to encounter systematic evidence and federal enforcement that would expose every aspect of his wage theft while ensuring comprehensive employment contract protection and earned compensation recovery. The comprehensive wage protection I had implemented was transforming attempted commission theft into complete evidence for both Department of Labor investigation and employment contract enforcement while establishing clear entitlement to systematically earned pharmaceutical sales compensation. Have you ever discovered that comprehensive pharmaceutical sales documentation could expose systematic wage theft disguised as corporate cost reduction? Professional sales performance protection sometimes becomes essential for detecting sophisticated fraud schemes targeting earned commission through employment contract manipulation. The strategic legal and federal response that Martinez and the Wage Protection Enforcement System developed required careful coordination between Department of Labor investigation, employment contract enforcement, and pharmaceutical industry regulatory oversight to maximize compensation recovery, while ensuring appropriate accountability for Collins's systematic wage theft and federal employment law violations. Collins's unauthorized elimination of earned pharmaceutical sales commission creates exposure under federal wage protection statutes, employment contract law, and pharmaceutical industry compensation regulations, Martinez explained during our comprehensive strategy session. The evidence you've compiled supports simultaneous Department of Labor investigation and contract enforcement that will ensure complete compensation recovery and maximum accountability. The Department of Labor investigation strategy focused on Collins's violations of wage protection requirements and systematic coordination with corporate executives that warranted immediate federal intervention and comprehensive employment contract protection enforcement. Your employment contracts establish clear commission entitlement that Collins systematically violated through unauthorized compensation elimination, Martinez noted. Collins's coordination with corporate cost reduction initiatives constitutes systematic violation of federal wage protection laws and pharmaceutical industry compensation standards. But the most immediate priority was preventing Collins from implementing additional wage theft, targeting other high-performing representatives, while federal investigators built comprehensive cases for both compensation recovery and employment law prosecution. We need emergency Department of Labor intervention to prevent Collins from eliminating compensation for additional representatives, while investigators examine the full scope of systematic wage theft, Martinez recommended. The federal wage theft notification documentation I was preparing included comprehensive evidence of Collins's systematic commission elimination, employment contract violations, and corporate coordination that warranted immediate federal investigation and wage protection enforcement. Collins's activities constitute multiple violations, including wage theft, employment contract fraud, and systematic coordination to avoid federal compensation obligations, Martinez explained. Meanwhile, I was coordinating with pharmaceutical industry compliance specialists to ensure comprehensive territory protection while building wage recovery cases and maintaining focus on continued healthcare provider relationship development and territory performance excellence. Martinez, Collins's wage theft is creating additional stress during critical territory development when healthcare provider relationships require complete professional attention, I noted. The systematic compensation violations are compromising both financial security and pharmaceutical sales performance during peak territory development periods. The financial analysis I was conducting revealed that Collins's wage theft had affected not just individual compensation, but had also compromised our entire territory development strategy through elimination of performance incentives and healthcare provider relationship investment funding. Collins's compensation elimination affected territory development programs that depend on commission-funded healthcare provider relationship building, I documented. His wage theft threatens continuation of professional medical education programs and comprehensive territory development initiatives. The forensic accounting that Martinez arranged showed that Collins's wage theft had been coordinated with corporate cost reduction while systematically avoiding proper employment contract modification procedures and federal wage protection compliance. Collins's wage theft generated $140,000 in unauthorized corporate savings while avoiding proper contract modification and federal wage protection verification, forensic accountant Lisa Chen calculated. The financial analysis proves systematic employment fraud rather than legitimate corporate cost management. The United States Department of Labor investigation that began within 48 hours of our notification included comprehensive examination of Collins's wage theft methods and corporate coordination by experienced pharmaceutical employment law specialists. Collins's wage theft appears to constitute systematic federal employment violations that warrant immediate criminal investigation, lead Department of Labor investigator Michael Torres reported after reviewing preliminary evidence. The federal investigation was revealing that Collins's pharmaceutical sales wage theft violated multiple employment protection laws, including commission protection statutes, contract modification requirements, and systematic wage theft prevention provisions that carried substantial criminal penalties. Collins's systematic compensation elimination violates federal wage protection requirements and pharmaceutical industry employment compliance standards, investigator Torres noted. But Collins's most serious error was systematically falsifying corporate cost reduction documentation and employment contract modification records while coordinating with corporate executives to circumvent federal wage protection laws through fraudulent business justification. Collins created false corporate documentation and coordinated with executives to facilitate systematic wage theft through federal employment law circumvention, Martinez observed. His corporate coordination creates enhanced federal employment crime liability, The Federal Bureau of Investigation, White-Collar Crime Division, was triggered when Department of Labor investigators discovered that Collins's wage theft potentially affected multiple pharmaceutical representatives across several states, creating interstate employment fraud violations. Collins's systematic wage theft may involve interstate employment fraud that violates federal racketeering laws governing corporate wage theft coordination, FBI investigator Jennifer Walsh explained. The Securities and Exchange Commission investigation was examining whether Collins's wage theft represented broader corporate fraud schemes affecting pharmaceutical industry employment practices and investor disclosure of compensation obligations. Collins's systematic wage theft may violate corporate disclosure requirements governing pharmaceutical sales compensation and employment obligation reporting, SEC investigator Sarah Davis reported. The comprehensive evidence compilation was supporting both civil employment contract enforcement and potential federal criminal charges that could result in substantial prison time, plus complete restitution of stolen wages and enhanced penalties for systematic employment law violations. Collins's documented activities support federal charges under wage theft statutes, employment fraud laws, and interstate commerce provisions that carry combined penalties exceeding $500,000, federal employment prosecutor Robert Wilson explained. The pharmaceutical industry implications were also significant, as Collins's wage theft could affect industry compensation standards and healthcare provider relationship development that depended on proper pharmaceutical sales representative compensation and territory investment. Collins's stolen commission compensation affected healthcare provider relationship programs that support pharmaceutical education and patient care access, pharmaceutical industry analyst Patricia Newman noted. His wage theft threatens essential healthcare provider relationship development and pharmaceutical access programs. The corporate executive investigation was revealing that Collins's wage theft had been coordinated with senior management who were systematically implementing similar compensation elimination strategies across multiple pharmaceutical sales regions. Corporate executives coordinated with Collins to implement systematic wage theft affecting pharmaceutical representatives across multiple territories, corporate fraud investigator noted. The wage recovery process was identifying stolen compensation that Collins and corporate executives had attempted to hide through accounting manipulation and corporate cost reduction justification designed to prevent federal wage theft detection. Collins and corporate executives systematically concealed wage theft through accounting manipulation and false cost reduction documentation, asset recovery specialist Linda Thompson reported. Their systematic concealment activities prove consciousness of guilt. But the most significant development was the pharmaceutical industry's recognition that my systematic documentation had prevented potential compromise of territory development programs while enabling comprehensive federal investigation during corporate wage theft schemes. Anderson's pharmaceutical sales documentation prevented major territory performance loss while providing comprehensive evidence for federal wage protection enforcement. Pharmaceutical Sales Representatives Association Chairman Dr. Patricia Rodriguez noted, the coordinated federal response was ensuring that Collins's wage theft would result in both complete compensation recovery and maximum criminal accountability while protecting pharmaceutical industry employment standards and territory development systems. Multiple agency coordination ensures comprehensive wage recovery while preventing additional employment fraud targeting pharmaceutical sales representatives, Martinez observed. Collins's systematic exploitation of my record territory performance was about to encounter coordinated federal employment enforcement that would expose the full scope of his crimes while ensuring appropriate protection for both personal employment rights and pharmaceutical industry compensation integrity. The evidence I had compiled through automated performance systems was enabling federal agencies to build comprehensive cases that addressed both individual wage theft and broader threats to pharmaceutical sales employment protection and industry compensation standards. Have you ever required coordination between Department of Labor investigation and employment contract enforcement to address systematic wage theft affecting pharmaceutical sales compensation. Sometimes comprehensive performance documentation becomes essential for protecting both individual representatives and broader industry employment security during federal wage theft enforcement. The coordinated federal investigation that began executing 4 weeks after my initial Department of Labor complaint created immediate pressure on both Collins and the corporate executive network while exposing the systematic nature of his wage theft to federal investigators, pharmaceutical industry regulators, and employment law enforcement officials who had been unaware of his coordinated scheme to eliminate high-performer compensation across multiple territories. The emergency wage protection orders that the United States Department of Labor implemented after reviewing my comprehensive evidence immediately prevented Collins from implementing additional compensation eliminations while securing federal oversight of all pharmaceutical sales compensation pending criminal investigation resolution. Mr. Collins is subject to immediate federal oversight of all compensation-related activities pending resolution of systematic wage theft charges, Department of Labor Regional Director Dr. Sarah Wilson announced. His documented employment fraud creates immediate wage protection violations that require comprehensive federal intervention. Collins's response to the federal wage protection orders revealed his growing panic as he realized that his commission theft had triggered multiple government investigations and potential federal prosecution rather than the successful cost reduction initiative he had anticipated. Collins's emergency legal motions show desperation about federal oversight and recognition that his wage theft constitutes federal employment crimes, Martinez observed. His legal strategy indicates understanding that criminal prosecution is inevitable. The federal criminal charges that prosecutors filed included systematic wage theft, employment contract fraud, conspiracy to violate federal wage protection laws, and interstate employment fraud that carried potential sentences exceeding 20 years in federal prison. Mr. Collins faces multiple felony charges, including wage theft, employment fraud, and conspiracy to violate federal wage protection statutes, Federal Prosecutor Wilson announced. His systematic employment crime constitutes serious federal violations that threaten pharmaceutical industry employment security and worker protection systems. The Corporate Compensation Solutions investigation was revealing that Collins's wage theft had been coordinated with consulting firms who specialized in helping companies eliminate high-performer compensation through systematic employment contract manipulation and federal wage law circumvention. Collins coordinated with corporate consultants who systematically advise companies about high-performer compensation elimination through federal wage protection law circumvention, Department of Labor investigator Torres noted. His activities constitute coordinated employment fraud that threatens federal wage protection system integrity. But the most damaging development for Collins was the pharmaceutical industry investigation that revealed his wage theft had compromised healthcare provider relationship development programs that were essential for pharmaceutical access and patient care coordination. Collins's wage theft affected pharmaceutical territory programs that support healthcare provider education and patient medication access, pharmaceutical industry advocate Jennifer Adams reported. His systematic compensation elimination threatened both individual representatives and broader healthcare provider relationship systems that serve patient care needs. The Federal Trade Commission investigation was expanding to examine whether Collins's wage theft had compromised pharmaceutical industry competition and healthcare provider relationship development that supported patient access to essential medications. Collins's wage theft may have affected pharmaceutical competition and healthcare provider relationship programs that serve patient medication access, FTC investigator Robert Kim noted. His employment fraud threatens pharmaceutical industry competition and patient care access systems. The Securities and Exchange Commission investigation was revealing that Collins's wage theft represented broader corporate fraud schemes affecting pharmaceutical industry employment practices and investor disclosure of compensation obligations to shareholders. Collins's systematic wage theft may violate corporate disclosure requirements and investor protection regulations governing pharmaceutical employment compensation, SEC investigator Davis reported. His activities compromise essential corporate disclosure and investor protection systems. The asset recovery process was proceeding rapidly as federal investigators traced stolen wage compensation through multiple corporate accounting systems while implementing comprehensive restitution procedures for all affected pharmaceutical representatives and employment contract violations. Stolen wage compensation has been located and secured through multiple corporate accounting systems, asset recovery specialist Thompson reported. Collins's concealment attempts were unsuccessful due to comprehensive federal tracking capabilities and employment protection documentation. The plea negotiations that Collins's employment defense attorneys initiated revealed their recognition that the comprehensive evidence made federal conviction inevitable while wage recovery was proceeding under federal employment protection laws. Collins's legal team is requesting plea negotiations due to overwhelming evidence of systematic wage theft, Federal Prosecutor Wilson reported. His federal exposure eliminates most defense strategies for employment fraud. But Collins's emotional breakdown during federal employment crime interrogation revealed the psychological pressure of facing multiple wage theft charges and recognition that his employment fraud scheme would result in substantial federal penalties and potential decades of imprisonment. Collins broke down completely when federal investigators presented evidence of his systematic wage theft and employment contract fraud, Department of Labor investigator Torres reported. His confession included admission of fraudulent intent and corporate executive coordination. The confession provided federal investigators with detailed information about Collins's wage theft methods and corporate coordination, while identifying additional pharmaceutical representatives who had been systematically targeted for compensation elimination across multiple territories. Collins's cooperation revealed systematic wage theft affecting pharmaceutical representatives across 6 states and multiple corporate regions, Prosecutor Wilson noted. His confession provides evidence for protecting additional pharmaceutical sales professionals from similar employment fraud schemes. The corporate executive coordination investigation was expanding as federal investigators discovered that senior management had been systematically implementing similar wage theft strategies across multiple pharmaceutical sales divisions and regional territories. Corporate executives coordinated with Collins to implement systematic wage theft affecting pharmaceutical representatives throughout the National Sales Organization, Federal Employment Crime Investigator noted. The wage recovery process was proceeding comprehensively as federal enforcement implemented complete compensation restoration, plus enhanced damages for systematic employment fraud and federal wage protection law violations. Complete wage recovery plus enhanced damages totaled $240,000 in comprehensive restoration, I calculated, while managing territory development and legal coordination simultaneously. The federal remedies address both individual harm and systematic employment fraud affecting pharmaceutical industry compensation standards. The professional reputation recovery was exceeding expectations, as pharmaceutical industry colleagues and healthcare provider contacts appreciated my systematic approach to exposing wage theft while protecting pharmaceutical sales employment integrity and territory development programs. Thomas's documentation and federal reporting demonstrates exactly the kind of professional integrity needed for pharmaceutical sales employment protection and healthcare provider relationship development, noted testimonial from Healthcare Provider Relations Director Dorothy Martinez. The pharmaceutical territory assessment was revealing that Collins's wage theft had threatened not just individual compensation, but also broader healthcare provider relationship programs that depended on proper pharmaceutical representative compensation and territory investment funding. Collins's wage theft compromised healthcare provider relationship programs that serve patient medication access and pharmaceutical education initiatives, Healthcare Relationship Coordinator Patricia Newman observed. The United States Department of Labor was using our wage theft documentation as model evidence for detecting and preventing systematic employment fraud in pharmaceutical sales environments and high-performance compensation targeting. Anderson's systematic documentation and federal reporting provide excellent examples of protecting pharmaceutical sales employment during systematic wage theft targeting high-performing representatives, Department of Labor Training Director David Martinez noted. The speaking opportunities at pharmaceutical conferences and employment protection seminars were generating additional recognition while establishing my reputation as an expert in wage theft detection and pharmaceutical employment protection during corporate cost reduction initiatives. Anderson's experience demonstrates how systematic documentation and federal reporting can expose and prevent pharmaceutical sales wage theft, observed conference organizer Dr. Jennifer Walsh. Collins's systematic wage theft was about to result in comprehensive federal accountability, while validating systematic performance documentation and employment contract protections as essential safeguards for pharmaceutical sales compensation and territory development programs. The coordinated federal response had transformed attempted wage theft into enhanced professional recognition while demonstrating the effectiveness of systematic documentation and federal oversight during employment fraud investigations targeting pharmaceutical sales compensation. Have you ever seen systematic wage theft completely defeated through coordinated federal enforcement that protected both individual representatives and broader pharmaceutical industry employment integrity? Sometimes comprehensive documentation and federal reporting create industry-wide protection while ensuring appropriate criminal accountability for employment fraud violations during corporate cost reduction initiatives. The comprehensive resolution of Collins's wage theft case occurred within 11 months of my initial Department of Labor complaint, delivering complete compensation recovery, enhanced professional reputation, and federal criminal accountability that exceeded initial expectations, while establishing new pharmaceutical industry standards for preventing systematic employment fraud during corporate cost reduction initiatives and high-performer compensation targeting. Collins's guilty plea on all federal charges included systematic wage theft, employment contract fraud, conspiracy to violate federal wage protection laws, and interstate employment crime coordination that resulted in a 14-year federal prison sentence, plus permanent prohibition from employment management and complete forfeiture of stolen wage proceeds. Mr. Collins's systematic wage theft represents a serious violation of pharmaceutical employment trust and federal law, Federal Employment Judge Patricia Stevens stated during sentencing. His coordination with corporate executives to eliminate high-performer compensation warrants maximum punishment under federal employment crime guidelines. The criminal conviction required Collins to forfeit all personal assets, including his residence, vehicles, and investment accounts that had been acquired using proceeds from systematic wage theft and employment fraud coordination with corporate executives. Collins's asset forfeiture ensures complete victim recovery, plus enhanced penalties that reflect the pharmaceutical industry implications of his employment fraud, Asset Recovery Specialist Thompson reported. The comprehensive recovery exceeds original theft amounts due to federal employment crime penalties and systematic wage protection violation enhancements. But beyond financial recovery, Collins's prosecution created pharmaceutical industry recognition of systematic performance documentation as essential protection against wage theft and employment fraud during corporate cost reduction periods and high-performance targeting initiatives. Anderson's comprehensive pharmaceutical sales documentation provided the evidentiary foundation for the most successful employment fraud prosecution in Department of Labor history. Pharmaceutical Sales Representatives Association Director Dr. David Martinez noted. His systematic approach should be adopted by all pharmaceutical representatives facing employment vulnerabilities and corporate cost reduction risks. The professional opportunities that resulted from my ethical handling of Collins's fraud exceeded anything our original employment relationship could have provided for pharmaceutical sales career development and industry recognition. Anderson Pharmaceutical Consulting, the independent territory development firm I established, using wage recovery proceeds and enhanced professional reputation, was attracting pharmaceutical representatives and healthcare organizations who valued proven sales integrity and comprehensive employment protection documentation. Thomas's exposure of systematic wage theft demonstrates exactly the kind of professional integrity we need for pharmaceutical territory development and healthcare provider relationship management, noted client testimonial from Johnson & Johnson Territory Development Director Jennifer Adams. The pharmaceutical consulting practice was generating annual revenue of $420,000 while providing professional satisfaction that focused on advanced territory development rather than employment fraud prevention and wage protection management. Independent pharmaceutical consulting with comprehensive employment documentation allows complete focus on territory excellence and healthcare provider relationship development, I reflected during professional presentations. The former pharmaceutical colleagues who joined Anderson Pharmaceutical Consulting as senior territory specialists represented validation that my sales expertise and ethical standards created more value than Collins's fraudulent cost reduction schemes. Thomas's systematic approach to pharmaceutical territory development and ethical employment practices provide reliability and performance capabilities that justify premium consulting services and healthcare provider relationship investment, explained personnel metrics showing recruitment of 5 senior pharmaceutical territory specialists. The speaking opportunities at pharmaceutical conferences and employment protection seminars were generating additional revenue while establishing my reputation as an expert in wage theft detection and pharmaceutical employment protection during corporate cost reduction initiatives. Anderson's experience demonstrates how comprehensive performance documentation can expose and prevent systematic pharmaceutical employment fraud, observed conference organizer Dr. Jennifer Walsh. The United States Department of Labor had implemented enhanced pharmaceutical employment protection recommendations based on Collins's fraud case, creating new federal standards for preventing systematic wage theft during corporate cost reduction and high-performer compensation targeting. Anderson's employment protection protocols have become model practices for pharmaceutical representatives seeking to prevent wage theft while maintaining comprehensive territory development and healthcare provider relationship excellence, Department of Labor Compliance Director Lisa Chen noted. Collins's complete professional and personal destruction served as pharmaceutical industry warning about the consequences of systematic wage theft and the importance of ethical employment practices during corporate cost reduction and territory management. The Collins case sends clear messages throughout the pharmaceutical industry about federal enforcement capabilities for wage theft and employment fraud, legal analyst Patricia Newman observed. But the most meaningful outcome was validation of systematic performance documentation and employment contract protection as reliable safeguards against wage theft during corporate cost reduction periods and high-performance targeting initiatives. Collins's prosecution proves that comprehensive performance documentation and ethical pharmaceutical employment create sustainable competitive advantages, I observed during ethics workshops. The pharmaceutical industry recognition I received for wage theft prevention expertise had generated consulting opportunities and strategic partnerships that exceeded the financial benefits of traditional employment arrangements. Anderson's ethical handling of employment fraud demonstrates pharmaceutical integrity that attracts both consulting clients and industry collaboration opportunities, pharmaceutical consultant Sarah Davis noted. The enhanced federal recognition I had achieved through ethical reporting was providing access to premium consulting opportunities and territory development projects that reflected superior pharmaceutical capabilities and verified employment integrity. Anderson Pharmaceutical Consulting's proven wage protection and comprehensive territory development provide pharmaceutical services that exceed traditional employment approaches, client testimonial showed. The comprehensive legal victory had demonstrated that systematic documentation and federal protections provided more reliable employment security than corporate relationships based on convenience rather than verified ethical standards and employment protection safeguards. Professional competence in wage protection creates employment security that transcends individual corporate arrangements, I noted during pharmaceutical leadership seminars. Collins's systematic wage theft during my record territory performance had inadvertently created opportunities for enhanced pharmaceutical independence, federal recognition, and meaningful territory development relationships that exceeded anything our original employment could have achieved. Sometimes, the The most systematic employment betrayal creates catalysts for independent success and enhanced protection standards. I reflected during professional development workshops. The performance documentation methods that had exposed Collins's fraud were being adopted by pharmaceutical representatives while generating ongoing consultation revenue and industry leadership recognition. Anderson's employment protection protocols provide comprehensive security against wage theft while supporting legitimate pharmaceutical territory development. Noted licensing agreement with National Pharmaceutical Sales Protection Alliance. Collins's attempt to steal earned commission while exploiting my record sales performance had ultimately created opportunities for enhanced pharmaceutical independence, industry leadership recognition, and meaningful territory development that exceeded anything traditional employment arrangements could have provided. The systematic approach to employment protection that had defeated coordinated wage theft was providing sustainable competitive advantages that attracted the most discerning pharmaceutical clients and healthcare organizations available to territory development specialists with proven employment integrity. Have you ever discovered that systematic pharmaceutical documentation could transform attempted wage theft into opportunities for enhanced professional success and industry recognition? Sometimes comprehensive employment protection becomes the foundation for independent success that exceeds traditional employment benefits while advancing pharmaceutical territory development excellence. Standing in the expanded Anderson Pharmaceutical Consulting headquarters, 18 months after Collins's conviction and imprisonment, I reflected on how his systematic theft of my earned commission had inadvertently transformed my career from traditional pharmaceutical employment to industry leadership in territory development consulting and pharmaceutical employment protection. The independent consulting firm had grown to generate $520,000 in annual revenue, while serving pharmaceutical representatives and healthcare organizations who valued proven sales integrity and comprehensive employment documentation above traditional pharmaceutical sales approaches. The 4,200 square foot professional facility accommodated advanced territory development capabilities and comprehensive employment protection resources that supported both routine pharmaceutical consulting and specialized wage theft prevention services that had become my professional specialty through Department of Labor recognition and enhanced industry credentials. Working with a pharmaceutical consultant who has personally tested comprehensive employment protection provides confidence and career security that eliminates concerns about wage theft and corporate exploitation during high-performance periods, noted Senior Territory Specialist Patricia Lynch, a former Pfizer representative who had joined our team. The pharmaceutical consulting practice I had established was generating substantially higher income than my previous corporate employment, while providing professional satisfaction that focused on advanced territory development rather than wage theft prevention and employment protection management. Anderson Pharmaceutical Consulting's systematic approach to territory development and ethical employment practices provides pharmaceutical services that exceed traditional corporate employment standards. Client testimonial from Merck Territory Development Director Michael Torres noted, "The business expansion that had resulted from Collins's prosecution, combined with Department of Labor recognition for wage theft prevention expertise, had created professional opportunities that exceeded anything achievable through traditional pharmaceutical employment with shared compensation vulnerabilities." Thomas's transformation from wage theft victim to industry employment protection leader demonstrates how systematic integrity and comprehensive documentation create lasting competitive advantages in pharmaceutical territory development, Pharmaceutical Sales Management Quarterly observed. But the most significant achievement was federal recognition that established me as the definitive expert in pharmaceutical employment protection and systematic performance documentation for pharmaceutical representatives facing corporate vulnerabilities and wage theft risks during high-performance achievement periods. Anderson's experience provides unique insights into preventing and detecting wage theft that threatens both individual pharmaceutical careers and broader industry employment integrity, Pharmaceutical Employment Security Review noted. The United States Department of Labor had requested my participation in developing enhanced pharmaceutical employment protection standards and territory development protocols that would protect pharmaceutical representatives from systematic wage theft and corporate exploitation during high-performance periods. Anderson's performance documentation methods and fraud detection expertise provide essential guidance for strengthening pharmaceutical employment protection throughout the healthcare industry. Department of Labor Pharmaceutical Division Chair Dr. David Martinez explained, "Annual speaking engagements at pharmaceutical conferences, employment protection seminars, and territory development workshops were generating supplemental income of $135,000 while reinforcing my expertise in systematic documentation and ethical pharmaceutical employment management." Anderson's systematic approach to employment protection and wage theft prevention has become the industry standard for pharmaceutical representatives working in high-performance territory development. National Pharmaceutical Representatives Association President Jennifer Adams observed. Collins's 14-year federal prison sentence had concluded with complete employment fraud forfeiture, industry-wide recognition of his criminal practices, and ongoing legal restrictions that would prevent him from managing employment compensation throughout his supervised release period. Collins's systematic wage theft resulted in the most comprehensive pharmaceutical employment fraud prosecution in Department of Labor court history, Federal Prosecutor Wilson noted. His case demonstrates that wage theft and employment fraud carry severe criminal consequences that cannot be avoided through sophisticated corporate coordination or cost reduction justification claims. But Collins's case had also created enhanced protection for pharmaceutical industry employment integrity by establishing legal precedents that strengthened wage protection enforcement and employment fraud prevention capabilities during corporate cost reduction initiatives. The Collins case clarified federal enforcement capabilities for systematic wage theft and established deterrent effects throughout the pharmaceutical employment community, legal analyst Robert Kim observed. The pharmaceutical employment protection methodologies I had developed and refined through Collins's fraud exposure were generating licensing revenue from pharmaceutical companies who needed proven protection frameworks while ensuring proper Department of Labor implementation and ethical oversight. Anderson's employment protection protocols provide comprehensive security against wage theft while supporting legitimate pharmaceutical territory development and optimal healthcare provider relationship outcomes, noted licensing agreement with International Pharmaceutical Employment Security Network. The professional reputation I had built through ethical crisis management was attracting strategic consultation opportunities with major pharmaceutical organizations who valued demonstrated integrity and systematic employment protection expertise. Anderson Pharmaceutical Consulting's proven employment integrity and comprehensive wage protection capabilities make them ideal consultants for the most sensitive pharmaceutical employment initiatives and territory development programs, explained consulting agreement with Pharmaceutical Industry Consortium. Looking back on Collins's systematic betrayal and attempted theft of my earned commission, I realized that his sophisticated wage theft had inadvertently created opportunities for professional growth, Department of Labor recognition, and pharmaceutical consulting success that exceeded anything traditional corporate employment could have provided. Sometimes the most comprehensive wage theft becomes the catalyst for professional development and federal recognition that transforms entire career trajectories into pharmaceutical industry leadership, I observed during sales excellence conferences. The systematic performance documentation that had exposed Collins's fraud was serving as the foundation for expanded consultation services that helped other pharmaceutical representatives prevent wage theft while maintaining ethical employment standards and comprehensive territory development excellence. Collins's theft attempt validated the commercial value of systematic employment protection while creating legal precedents that enhanced pharmaceutical industry-wide wage security capabilities, I noted during professional development workshops. The comprehensive legal victory had demonstrated that systematic documentation and federal protections provided more reliable employment security than corporate relationships based on convenience rather than verified ethical standards and wage protection requirements. Professional competence in systematic employment protection and ethical pharmaceutical territory development creates sustainable competitive advantages that transcend individual corporate arrangements or cost reduction strategies, I explained during Department of Labor Protection presentations. Collins's attempt to steal earned commission while exploiting my record sales performance had ultimately strengthened my professional position while creating consultation opportunities and federal recognition that established Anderson Pharmaceutical Consulting as the nation's leading advocate for ethical pharmaceutical employment and comprehensive wage protection. The people who attempt to exploit record sales performance through systematic wage theft sometimes end up creating opportunities for their victims to achieve greater success through validated expertise and comprehensive Department of Labor recognition, I reflected during pharmaceutical industry leadership seminars. The experience had proven that professional competence in systematic documentation and ethical pharmaceutical employment could transform attempted wage theft into enhanced consulting success and federal authority that exceeded original corporate employment compensation arrangements. Collins's systematic wage theft had inadvertently provided the foundation for building Department of Labor recognition, professional leadership, and pharmaceutical consulting expansion that represented the most successful and meaningful period in my 19-year pharmaceutical sales career. Professional relationships built on systematic integrity and verified protection standards prove more durable and valuable than corporate relationships based on convenient arrangements or cost reduction strategies that can be compromised through fraudulent activities and wage theft violations. The pharmaceutical consulting firm that had emerged from systematic wage theft attempts was generating higher revenue, enhanced federal recognition, and more meaningful territory development relationships than anything traditional corporate employment could have achieved. Have you discovered that systematic pharmaceutical documentation and ethical employment practices can transform attempted wage theft into opportunities for professional growth and Department of Labor recognition? Sometimes the most sophisticated employment fraud becomes the foundation for building enhanced competitive advantages through validated expertise and comprehensive pharmaceutical industry authority. If this story of systematic documentation and pharmaceutical employment protection resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button to Revenge Tales with Luke. Share your experiences with wage theft and employment fraud in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who's facing similar challenges with systematic compensation elimination and corporate exploitation during high-performance achievement. See you in our next story.